Joseph Parker and his manager David Higgins are expected to make a final decision this week on the potential clash with Derek Chisora. Or should they say they are expecting a final decision this week ahead of their proposed clash, rescheduling of their fight with Derek Chisora. Now, I touched on this briefly in the live stream that I did last night, but I didn't really go into detail. I just kind of read the article, okay? Now, I'm going to touch on a few little bits here in the article, and I'm going to give my 2 cents on it, and we'll just kind of see, just going to see as we go along. So, basically, they were scheduled to fight last month, with Parker forced to withdraw due to an illness after a suspected spider bite. I wonder why they're saying suspected, so I think boxing scene are even kind of dubious about that. Replacing Parker on the card was Olympic bronze medalist David Price, who was stopped by Chisora in 4 rounds. According to Parker and his handlers, they're going to hold talks with Eddie Hearn in the coming days to get a better idea of what's happening with a rescheduled date for Chisora. But Parker's handlers believe that Chisora's manager David Haye is steering his fighter in the direction of a clash with Alexander Usyk, who recently made his heavyweight debut and is currently the mandatory WBO challenger. This is what Joseph Parker told Sky Sports. He says he hasn't won a world title with Chisora, so I think they're trying to look for the fastest and the best way of getting there. And they think Usyk is the best way of getting a world title. But firstly, it doesn't make sense because he's not ranked. There's a lot of guys ranked before him. I'm not sure why they want that fight. Obviously, the fight was locked in for both of us, and I couldn't control what happened with the illness, but I want to reschedule the fight. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm ready to go. I know I can smash him. I know I can beat him. He's going to bring a lot of pressure, but I know I've got better boxing skills and better movement than the other guys he's fought. I told him before that I will retire him, and it'll be his last fight. Lock in the fight. I'll put in a great show. He will get the money he wants, but I will put him into retirement. He's had a good career. And then it says Higgins, that's basically what Joseph Parker has to say on Derek Chisora. Higgins explains that everything is settled on their end and it's up to Chisora on whether or not the fight will happen next. I'm just going to kill this article off here because there's only a little bit left. We've been advised by Joseph Parker's promoter Matchroom, led by Eddie Hearn, that we're going to get some answers next week on who Joseph might fight next, where and when, Higgins said. On our front, the deal is done. We have a 3-fight contract with Matchroom, so the terms are all agreed. It's an easy one. Chisora wanted it, Parker wanted it. The only thing standing in the way is the Machiavellian David Haye. Those are the words of David Higgins. So, interesting article, interesting read. Joseph Parker and his team seem willing to take this fight. Chisora was obviously keen on that fight originally. David Haye seemingly wants to steer him in the path of Alexander Usyk. Now, Joseph Parker saying that Chisora isn't ranked, so why he's taking the Usyk fight is beyond him. I know, and I think I touched on this in a previous video, might have been a live stream, that with certain sanctioning bodies, if you are the mandatory challenger, a lot of times they will just put it in place that any fight you have is a final eliminator. I know that was the way the IBF were doing it. I remember when Parker was their mandatory challenger way back when Eddie Hearn was trying to get Parker on the Eric Molina versus Anthony Joshua undercard to fight David Price in a final eliminator. Even though Parker was mandatory for the IBF at the time, they wanted to make that a final eliminator because every fight, according to Eddie Hearn anyway, every fight for the IBF is a final eliminator. And I would imagine that the WBO would be kind of similar. That probably Chisora may potentially inherit the mandatory challenger position if he fights Usyk and he beats him. Now, I see the Parker fight as more winnable than the Usyk fight. I think, yes, Usyk, he is still kind of, getting his feet wet with the heavyweight division. He's still probably not acclimatized fully, but I think that he is more than enough tricks up his sleeve to beat Derek Chisora. And I think with Parker is susceptible to pressure. We know that. We've seen it. And I think that is where Chisora's strengths lie. And I think that's how he has his best chance of beating Parker. Obviously, it's up in the air. I think David Haye would rather get Chisora down the route of an Usyk. I'm not really sure whether what Eddie Hearn would want in that sense. Whether maybe he'd want Usyk versus Chisora next. But then you ask the question, where does he go with Parker? What does he do? He's had the first fight with Parker, which was the Alex Leopold fight back in June. Where does the second fight go? It's a 3-fight deal. Where's the second fight go? You know, if there's no Chisora, who does he fight? Rivas? I wouldn't mind seeing that fight personally. I don't know if Rivas has a deal with Eddie Hearn, but Oscar Rivas would be a very interesting fight if we get him a decent ranking. So yeah, where's this going? So hopefully we'll figure out resolution. I wouldn't mind seeing either fight, whether it be Usyk versus Chisora or Parker versus Chisora. I think the Parker fight is a more winnable fight for Chisora as opposed to the Usyk, but I'd be interested to see either one, to be fair. So those are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you all think down below. Be interested to see some of the comments. Yeah, let me know what you think down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, of course, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.